funny thing about being bond to something. You don't really know how tied you are to it until you get ready to give it up. In fact, I've known people who say about cigarettes, I've known people who said, I'm not addicted. I could quit whenever I wanted to, until they try to quit. I've known people who said, I'm not an alcoholic. I have an occasional drink, but I am not an alcoholic. They don't even know that they're addicted until they try to quit. You can become bond to something and don't even know that it has become knit inside of you. And you can become bond to something that contradicts your destiny. But eventually, over a period of time, if you are called of God, you will have a head-on collision with destiny, and God will require you to give up something that becomes very difficult for you to give up. Abraham has come to that junction in his life whereby he is so tied to her that when Sarah brings her up, he gets mad. Anytime you're tied to something and somebody brings it up, you might have picked the wrong Wednesday night to come to Bible class, because it might get tight in here tonight. That thing that we can bring up and you don't say anything about, you cool about it. But that thing that we bring up and you get hot and defensive. What do you mean, alcoholic? We're just friends. You all always think evil about everything. We're just friends. Y'all look uncomfortable. She says, cast out the bondwoman and her son. And Abraham gets angry and leaves. He's grievous, is King James word. Ticked. I could use other one. Annoyed, aggravated, insulted, addicted. I'm wondering tonight if there's anything that you have inadvertently, accidentally, or on purpose, maybe throughout some cataclysmic problem that broke out in your life, you found yourself in a situation and now the problem is over, but you're still bound to the thing that you used as a crutch. You know, trouble and maladies and adversity create situations and creates attachments, and sometimes the attachment is supposed to help you get through a season, and the season is over, but the attachment remains. I know you don't know anything about this, but for the benefit of counseling other people, you might want to just think about some of the things I'm saying. And you can be a good person in a bad situation and become bond. And you never know how tied you are to something until you have to give it up. And Abraham is upset. He doesn't even want to admit that it's even remotely about Hagar. He says, I'm upset about my son. But God said, isn't it funny how God knows you? Knows things even when you're in denial. So we're talking about soul ties tonight. We're talking about soul ties, and we're talking about denial. Soul ties, those bonds that are created between you and other people and other things and other situations where you become tied, dependent or codependent upon them and find it very difficult to separate. They're not always sexual soul ties. There can be emotional soul ties. Emotional soul ties where you become dependent upon somebody, have attachments and ideas and concepts the person doesn't always even have to know. Whew. I've never seen it so quiet in here in all the years I've been pastor. You'd be surprised how people play mind games with themselves. Illusions and fantasies and ideas and concepts just to help them get through life because they're so lonely or so desperate or so disappointed, so alienated that they create scenarios in their own mind for their own pleasure and enjoyment to console them and comfort them through a crisis and then find it very difficult to give up what they started. That's why whenever possible, it's always better to preach to somebody to prevent them from the attachment because it's easier to prevent it than it is to break the pattern once it starts. Soul ties. It's always better to take your burdens to the Lord and lay them on the altar and develop relationships with him because sometimes in a crisis you can cry on a shoulder that you find yourself wrapped around. I thought that I would do this message on a Sunday, but for some reason God has me doing it tonight. Maybe there's somebody here that we could just talk about this a little while. Soul ties. Soul ties. Ties that make you miserable to break and unable to keep. Trapped between two polarities. Can't do with them. Can't do without him. Abraham, the great man of faith, the patriarch of Judaism, the father of faith, is tied to a situation that he can't do with and he can't do without. Not rooted or grounded. Rooted and grounded. Now, rooted is an agricultural term, okay? It is an agricultural term, like you root a bulb when you plant it, to root it, for it to take root, for it to take down in places you can't see. You're not asking for fruit before root. He says, I want you to be rooted and I want you to be grounded. Grounded is an architectural term. It deals with building, construction. The building is grounded. It has a foundation. In the original Greek, it means I want you to put more emphasis on your foundation than you do your building. Put the money on the floor. Stabilize the foundation. First thing, my mom, who was in real estate, very first thing she taught me about going out to purchase real estate, she said, baby, walk all around the house and check the foundation. Don't worry about the paint peeling. We can fix all of that. Don't worry about the windows out of joint. But if you see a crack in that foundation, all the paint in the world isn't going to fix the foundation. He said, I want you to be rooted, agricultural, grounded, architectural, in love. Come from a place of love. To come from a place of love. Whatever springs up in your life, let it spring up.
Love you, Daddy.
Motivation at your fingertips.